to hear it. Welcome to episode 9 of Chasing Sound Live. I have my sleeves rolled up, my guitar out, my guitar bag back there. You can only mean it's lesson time here on Chasing Sound Live. Excited to be here. I can't believe we did 9 of these already. 1 away from 10. Got a lot of stuff going on. Excited for number 10. Just got the whole interview thing set up on here to be able to do interviews down the road. You know, if you would like to come on the show and want to talk about something guitar related or recording related, music related, let me know. Brian at chasingsound.com. But yeah, no, getting a lot of cool stuff ready for upcoming live streams. So really excited about that. But yeah, got the interview thing going. Got a couple things going for the live stream that I'm excited about. Been chatting in the Discord chat. If you have not been to the Discord, gotta go check it out. Here is a screenshot of it. We are going live in Discord every day. We're hanging out there every day. It's been over a year since it's been created, which is very cool. Got about a little less than 50 people in there, but it's been a lot of fun. It's been very cool. A lot of people just find us from various guitar things that are out there. I will put the link to the Discord invite in the chat. So if you wanted to hang out, talk guitar, feel free to click that link and jump in the chat. It's definitely a really good time. We have a lot of fun there. We talk about all sorts of cool guitar stuff, gear, new music, what we're working on, and all sorts of other random stuff too. Talk about a lot of weird stuff. But no, it's a lot of fun, and we're having a lot of fun there. Speaking of new music, I've been listening to a lot of cool stuff lately. Would love to know what you're listening to. If you're looking at this later on down the road on the replay, let me know. But I've been listening to the new Government Mule, the new Corey Wong single, which he recorded apparently an album live from Paisley Park, which is awesome. Really, really cool. I'm excited to hear that. Seems like he's just never done, he took this pandemic and he just killed it with being able to, promote new stuff. He's been 3, 4, 5 albums that he's come out with, at least that I can count, over the last couple years here. And he's done a really cool job of it. So I'm excited for that. Of course, I've been listening to the new Dream Theater. It reminds me of earlier Dream Theater mixed in with a little bit of the new, kind of like Awake and Images and Words. The last track on the album is 20 minutes. I still don't understand how any of the guys, John Petrucci and Myung, all these guys, I don't understand how they keep that much music in their head for a live gig, but they do. So that's really cool. Been listening to a lot of different stuff. Guitar related, non-guitar related. There's a lot of great music coming out, so it's a good time to be a musician. One question I had for you guys, if you're catching this again on the replay, is what are you really working on? Where are you learning guitar stuff? I always like to check out new guitar stuff for myself. I'm taking part in a new Discord type chat thing myself with this guy Chris Sherland. Go check him out on YouTube. He's a great guitar teacher, great teacher of theory. And he has a thing that's kind of like Discord called Gilded. That's been a lot of fun. But yeah, if you're doing anything like that, where are you learning guitar stuff? And what are you working on? I always like, not only to learn for myself, but to get new cool stuff for the newsletter. And we'll be talking about the newsletter a little bit later on. Just what we're doing. What was in last week's issue, what's going to be in tomorrow's issue. I can give you a spoiler. Tomorrow's week's issue is focusing a lot on inexpensive gear, and we'll talk about that a little bit later. New guitars coming out from Epiphone, guitar players who use inexpensive guitars. Lots of really, really cool stuff there. But yeah, today I really wanted to focus on a lesson because I want to make these lives more than just going over the newsletters. The newsletters are fun, and I have a lot of fun talking about what's in them and what we've, what the stories is. It's kind of like a behind the scenes of the newsletter every week. But I want to kind of incorporate more and more guitar lessons into these lives. And if you have any topics that you're struggling with, and you'd like me to cover, let me know, because I'd be more than happy to look into it. So today's lesson is all about finding notes all over the neck and things that I've learned on my own, things that I've learned from other people, like that guy Chris Sherland, or guys like Ben Eller, or even Ariel Posen, as I take various lessons over the years. And eventually I'd like to get another cam for the guitar neck here, so you can see a better shot of the neck. But for now, this is what I have to work with. So, hopefully you're able to see as much of the fretboard as we'll need to see, at least for today. But yeah, we're going to talk about little different tricks that I've learned over the years, and some new things that I've learned over the last couple years where I'm trying to adapt my playing to, after having practiced for like over 20 years, it's still very, very, very possible to learn all sorts of new things. So, what do we got here first? The cool thing about the guitar is, as you might already know, is that we can play notes all over the fretboard, unlike something like a piano, which has one note. If you play that note, you will still have that note elsewhere on the piano keyboard, but it's the same note there. Whereas you have multiple locations for the same note here on guitar. So like this is a G 3rd fret of the E string, and this is a G 5th fret of the D string. So we have a lot more options than somebody like a piano player as a stringed instrument. The only thing that we really have to worry about, and that throws a lot of people off, is how the guitar is tuned. And I think that comes down to the B string being tuned not in the same way that the other strings are tuned against each other. But we'll get to that in a little bit. We'll talk about why that is a struggle and how to overcome that. So the first thing is talking about strings. So, many folks learn notes on the E string and the A string first. So if you start with those two strings, I think that's a good start. And the cool thing about learning notes on the E string, the low E, is that and let me know if you are on the live chat, if you could hear my guitar, because I've been messing a little bit with this my fractal that I have here. Still trying to work on the live stream setup, but yeah. So here's the low E. And the cool thing is, if you have 3rd fret of the G, 3rd fret of the E string, which is a G, is the same as this high E here. So if you know that low E string, you already know the number 1 string here, which is the high E. So you already have one string cut down from what you have to learn. So you really only have to learn 5 strings: E, A, D, G, and B. So that's number 1. The second thing is that you might have heard so many people do a lesson on this, but we'll talk about it again here, is the octave trick. So I just said, that this is a G, the 3rd fret of the low E string. Now, the cool thing about that is if you go over 2 frets, and then you go up 2 strings, so to the 5th fret of the D string, those are both the same note. So that's really awesome. And the cool thing about guitar, and what we'll talk about also in another second, is that shapes are very movable on the guitar. So if I move up to the 5th fret of the E string, which is an A, and I go 2 frets over, 2 strings up, the 7th fret of the D string is also an A. Same thing here for the 8th fret of the low E, which is a C. 10th fret of the D string is a C. So really, really cool stuff here. I know it's not mind-blowing, but that also works on the A string. So if you have the 3rd fret of the A string, which is a C, and you have the 5th fret of the G, that's also a C. But there's also tricks for the D string. So let's say we're up here on the 5th fret, which we already know is a G because we already found it on the low E. So the 5th fret is a G. If you go 3 frets up and 2 strings up, that's where you can use the D and the G strings. So right there, that's also a G. And if you go up here again, so this is that C note, 5th fret of the G string, right? And you go 3 frets up, 2 strings up, you got a C again. And guess what? If we jump down to low E, 8th fret, it's C again. So There's notes everywhere. You're never far from a note that you really want to get to, right? So just remember that if you're on the low E or the low A, the low E or the A string, you go 2 frets up, 2 strings up. So, and if you're on the D or the G string, you have to go 3 frets up and 2 strings up. So just because of the way the guitar is tuned, that's how it works. So the octave trick is very, very important. Like say, for instance, there's this part of the fretboard right here, somewhere in the middle. It's kind of like a barren wasteland of where things are. So like, let's say you're at the 11th fret of the B string, and you have no idea, and you really want to know what that note is. So if you go the 11th fret of the B string, remember what I told you, 3 frets. We were 3 frets up and 2 strings up. So let's go 3 frets down and 2 strings down. Obviously the opposite works too. So, and maybe you're still even struggling with this. Here we are on the 8th fret of the D string. So now you know this is an A sharp. Those are all an A sharp. So, or a B flat. So that octave trick is a big thing. I know, like I said, a lot of people have made that sort of a lesson before, but it's very, very helpful in finding notes. So you got your low E, you got your high E, think about those strings, and then think about the octave trick. As another cool thing, I'm using my Guthrie Govan pick today from the folks at Red Bear. We were talking about picks yesterday on Twitter. This is the Guthrie Govan Red Bear signature, and he has this funky. Probably won't be able to focus on it. Has this funky like coin style ridges on the top of the pick. Very, very cool pick. Very rigid. Very easy to play with. Okay, so we talked about the octave shape. Now let's talk about. I was mentioning that shapes are often very movable, right? So let's talk about like the first part of a G major scale. So something like this. Right? So we're talking about starting from a G here. That's the same exact pattern. If I'm playing with my second finger and fourth finger, here I'm going to start from the G over here, which is the octave. Again, that's how I found it. You got to think about scale shapes. Those patterns are all the same all over the place. So if I'm playing G, A, B, C, D, well, guess what? G, A, B, C, D are also right there. And why is that, right? So the cool thing about the notes, and this is on any instrument, is that a G to an A is always going to be 2 frets up. It's going to be a whole step. And a G to a G sharp is always going to be half step. So if you play, it's always going to be G to A there. It's never going to change unless you have the guitar tuned some wacky way. But it's always going to be G to an A there. So that's the cool thing about that. Let's talk about triads. I've been working a lot on triads lately and all their inversions. So like something like G, B, D, B, D, G. And then even up here, it would be D, B, G. Sorry. See, now I'm even getting lost. But D, G, B, right? So D, G, B is the another inversion of that G chord, and it's it's this small pattern right here where you have 10th fret, 10th fret, 9th fret. So if I'm at a D here, what about here? It's the same exact shape. So keep in mind shapes. Try to see what shapes you can find on the guitar, whether it be a scale pattern, whether it be chordal. A lot of people like to use the cage system. Whether it be shapes for our triads and arpeggios. A lot of the shapes are movable, so you're learning this stuff at first might be overwhelming, but it becomes less overwhelming when you have some of this sort of knowledge. If you know the natural notes, this is another big thing that I was learning from Ben Eller. So if you know the natural notes on the fretboard, which is a constant thing to work on, and I'll be the first to say that I'm also working on this too. I'm not a professional at this yet. I'm still working on it each and every day. But let's say you know the notes, right? So here's G, here's A. Let's go back. I think one of the other cool things to know is even just know the major scale, right? So the major scale would be whole, whole, half steps, whole, 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 half. So how do we put that into practice, right? So here's G. So here's a whole to A, whole again to B, half, C, whole to D, whole to E, whole to F sharp, half, back to G, right? Okay, so why is that important? Because if we know even just the G major scale, then we know a lot of notes here on the low E string. So this is a G. Let's say you're somewhere else more confusing, right? Let's say you're here at the ninth fret. You have no idea what that is for whatever reason. You just move up to a natural note that you may know, which is the 10th fret, which is D. And you know you got D sharp here, and you know you got D flat or C sharp here. So the cool thing about that is we're trying to continuously take stuff off of our plate, right? If you're here on the 3rd fret again, I keep going back to this, you know that this is G flat or F sharp, and you know this is G sharp or A flat. So, you know, if you know the natural notes, it's very, very easy to know the sharps and flats. The only other things that you got to pay attention to there are where are those whole steps and half steps. And this is another thing that never changes. The only 2 half steps you have, if you're thinking about white keys on a keyboard, are E to F and B to C. So something like E to F here or B to C. There is no B sharp, right? It's just B to C there. So that's another thing. So if you know that, if you know the natural notes, you know generally where the half steps are and the whole steps are for where you got to go, and you know what the sharps and flats are. Another thing where people get confused is the higher range of the fretboard. So if we're talking about up here at 13, anything past the 12th fret, basically, right? But how I like to think of that is, I like to think of this as F, right? Because number one, because it is. If we're talking about the 13th fret, that's the same as the 1st fret here. So don't think of this as the 13th fret. Don't even worry about that. The only time you would probably worry about that is if you're reading something like a tab, right? And it's specifically up there on the 13th fret. But for me, I'm thinking about this as F, or I'm trying to think about it as a function in a scale. So if we're talking about, F major, F minor, it's the 1, right? Or if you're talking about it in something else, think about it in relation to the scale. So right now, 13th fret, F. 13th fret of the high E, F. 15th fret up here is G, of course, just like the 3rd fret down here. So don't get so nervous about going up here on the fretboard. Try to think of it like your next mini fretboard. So, 17 and 19 are really just more like 5 and 7, right? So after 12, 12th fret is all your open strings, and then we're starting over at 1 again. So that's another thing. Another thing, speaking of the 12th fret, is if you're in this area where a lot of people get confused, even myself, I lose track sometimes of in the middle of the fretboard and closer to the 12th fret. If you're in that zone, the coolest thing to do is, let's think about all the open strings, right? So if this is a G, right, then if this is a G, then this is an F. So if you're on the 10th fret of the G string and you can't figure it out, think about what's going on the open note on the 12th fret. Like, for instance, up here too, if you're on the 10th fret of the E string, first of all, you should already know that, right? We want to know all the stuff on the E string as much as possible. But here we are on the 10th fret of the low E, and we know we got an E string there, an E note there on the 12th fret. So of course this is a D. If you can do the alphabet, you'll know what you're working with there. So this is an A, right? So 12th fret, which of course makes this a G. So try to use as many of these tactics as possible. Another thing too is, like, once you start getting some of these shapes going and you understand what you're doing there, so like A, G to A is a whole step, A to B, B B to C is a half step, C to D. Try to, you'll notice me, unless I really need to see something or show you guys something, um, I'm not looking at the fretboard here. I'm trying to just play without. I'm trying to play without looking at the fretboard, because when we're playing live, you don't want to always be focusing on the fretboard. You want to be able to play your chords. You want to be able to play your shapes, your scale shapes, and move on. From the song. I think we want to try to. Me, who has been playing guitar for a very long time, I've been trying to move away from shapes as a crutch. The traditional, right? The pentatonic shapes and so on. They're great, and they're very effective. But as I move on and as I play guitar for a longer amount of time, I'm trying to rely on my eyes less, trying to rely on what's in the chords more, because that'll allow me to hit the right notes that I want over chord changes. So don't rely on your eyes. Try to get away from shapes and work more on actually understanding what you're playing. Why is this a whole step? What does this have to do with the chord? What does this have to do with the scales? Another thing would be, not all exercises are bad, though, right? If you're sitting at home and you're doing something like, if you're doing your exercises, that's fine. You're watching the TV, though there's a place for those still. You're not just going to get the endurance or the speed that you need from not playing guitar, right? So if you have a chance to play guitar, where you can just do mindless things like working out, like you're working out your hands, do it. There's still a place for those. It's just I'm trying to get away from those style patterns when we're actually playing guitar. And then maybe the last thing too, not about finding notes so much, but more about playing guitar, is practice with putting the guitar down, right? Because a lot of times, and myself included, if something's in like G major, E minor, I'm going to move up to this 12th fret box and I'm going to try to start soloing in that area, because that's just what I know, and I'm trying to get away from that more and more. Try to sing out some of the stuff, and that's good for building your inner ear about what notes are where. Try to work on intervals. What is a whole step? What is a fourth, a fifth, a minor third? How do those sound? You could do it here. You could do it with an intervals app. You can do it with something like I mentioned a lot of times. Tom Quayle has an app called Solo, which is really, really cool. So that's cool. There's so many tools right now. If I had this stuff when I was like 16 or 17, I feel like I'd be way, way beyond where I am now. But I'm just happy to have them now. I love playing guitar, and I think if you love playing guitar too, it's worth it to put in the work. So I gave you a lot of different stuff to try. One thing that I will note is that there really are no shortcuts when it comes to this thing, other than really putting in the work. These are some of the hacks that will push you along and make you a better guitar player and be able to get some of this stuff a little bit easier. But there are no hacks, right? So put in the work. If you're working on endurance, work on your patterns. And if you're working on really understanding the guitar, try to say the note names. Try to say the note functions, right? So if you're playing like G to A, say like 1 to 2, understand what you're trying to accomplish there. And this is just everything I just said. This is just the starting point to be able to move on to more and more theory and be able to get better and better and better on the guitar. So that's my guitar lesson for this weekend. I'm going to go put this guitar down for a sec. I will be right back, and we will get into some stuff about Six String Sunday, all sorts of guitar stories. So hang on. I'll be right back in about a minute. And we're back. All right. So, thanks for sticking around. I hope that guitar stuff was helpful for you, uh, and you get a lot out of it because there's so much cool stuff that you can do from it, and it's a lot of fun, right? Learning this stuff is fun, and it makes guitar all the more better to learn when you're learning this style of theory. So, I was talking a little bit about Six String Sunday. Let's talk about what my favorite links were for last week. Last week we had a lot of cool stuff, including this video here from the wild one himself, Mr. Gregory Cockery from Sweetwater. And he's sitting down here with Nick. Lots of cool stuff. Yeah. So lots of cool stuff here. You can see that they were jamming a lot. Greg is awesome. I mean, if you haven't seen Greg or listened to any of his stuff already, his music is just amazing. If you're a fan of blues, he's doing a lot of new things. I mean, I can't imagine the amount of hours that this guy has put into guitar playing. It seems like it's tens of thousands of hours. Here he is playing at Sweetwater with his own guitar, his own signature, and he also has a signature amp that he's plugged into. The cool thing about this is that they jam. They talk about stuff like chicken picking. But the cool part about this is that they talk about learning phrases from their guitar heroes and everything. And the biggest thing that I got away from this was that he was saying that you should learn the stuff not note for note, but try to kind of like develop the vernacular into your playing. Look at that guitar, very very cool, very very cool guitar. Got some EMGs going on with the left hander. But yeah, no, this was a great lesson, and of course, like I said, there's a lot of cool exercises and stuff on there. But my favorite is just listening to how Greg learns and how he tries to take the stuff from his favorite guitar heroes, whether that be Hendrix, Stevie Ray Vaughan, or others, and not get the stuff note for note, but kind of try to learn the vocabulary. And we always talk about that here on the live stream or on the newsletter, about how it's important to learn the vocabulary of a style that you're trying to learn, whether that be country, blues, rock, metal. Super important. So check this out. Sweetwater always does a good job with their videos. They always do really, really fun ones. So go check that out. And speaking of a cool one, this was one of the podcasts I listen to all the time, the Tone Mob podcast. Here they were talking about, they were talking to two big guys who've been in the print media industry for a really long time, Chris Gill and Brad Talinsky. Brad Talinsky, both of these names really are such a huge names in the guitar print industry, both with magazines like Guitar Player or Guitar World. If you've ever read either of those magazines, which if you're watching this, it's very likely that you have, you probably would have seen their writing or their photos and so on before. The cool thing about this is that they have a new book out from Eddie Van Halen that's called Eruption. And the coolest thing about this is that they mentioned that because they are guitarists as well, they were able to go deeper into questions with Eddie, because they were talking his lingo, right? They were also guitar players, so he opened up to them more, and then they could ask him some other questions that are not guitar related as much. So I thought that was really cool, and Blake always does an awesome job with the Tone Mob, one of the greatest podcasts for guitar out there. He just had someone, let's see, why am I blanking on the name, but he just had John Nolan of Taking Back Sunday, one of my favorite bands, on the podcast as well. He has King Buzzo of the Melvins, all sorts of great people on his podcast, and he's also part of the Chasing Tone podcast, which is with the guys over at Wampler Pedals. So awesome stuff. Go check out both podcasts because they're really good. I almost never miss an episode of either one. Paul Davids made a very cool video on October 12th. Man, I think I said this in the newsletter, but If I link to Paul David's quite a bit, it's just because I love the way that his videos look. I always think they look really, really nice. Um, they're very well produced. I mean, the not only the lighting, but the cameras he's probably using, they look awesome, and he gets into cool topics. So here he's getting into how the Beatles wrote Penny Lane, and the cool thing is that like the production that I like, it's that he always has cool stuff popping up on the screen. Whether it be the chord progression, which let's see if I can find out here. Let's see, yeah, so over here, he has the chords going in real time in the bottom right. Just does a really, really good job of producing these videos. Kind of inspires me to do the same. But yeah, I really love his videos, and he goes through a classic Beatles song. And the cool thing is that he goes through multiple stages of why Penny Lane is a really, really cool song. So go check that out, and then go check other videos out on Paul's site. If you watch this one, it's likely that you're going to watch many, many more. There is a reason that he has over 2 million subscribers here on YouTube for a guitar guy. So go check him out. One of my favorite guitar YouTubers. Again, another person where I pretty much watch every single video that he puts out. A guy who has not been around for a little while and who just came back is this guy here, Jim Lill, who is a you gotta love the ads. Jim Lill, who is a fantastic country guitar player. He in the past he's gotten into all sorts of cool lessons about guys like Brent Mason and about Brad Paisley, and a really, really good guitar player in his own right. The cool thing about this video is that if you take a look at the title, it says Guitar Tone, What Matters, Actual Tests, No Opinions, right? So he has a number of guitars, number of amps. If you look at the chapters here, he's not only going through guitars and everything and amps, he's going through picks and picking, the guitar type, pickup position, the string age, amp bias type, guitar cabs and speakers, mics, mic preamps, where you're positioning the mic. This is a nearly 30-minute video that, I like how it's laid out because, you're into all these different chapters. You can kind of skip around at your own leisure and see what you like. But, for me, I found things that make an enormous change in the Guitar Tone is mic placement. I think, even if you're using something like a 57, Shure 57, moving the microphone even a little bit can make such a huge impact on your guitar tone. So that's why it's good to have somebody like an assistant engineer, or if you even just get up yourself and move the mic around a little bit and then go back into the control room and just hear how it sounds. It's one of the most biggest things that you can do. As you can see here, he has a really, really nice home studio. And if you're into country guitar, go check his channel out after checking out this video because it's a lot of fun. Really, really cool dude. Moving on to other cool things in the guitar world from last week. Premier Guitar talked to Clapton's tech for a pretty surprising story. This is like one of the most surprising stories of last week, is that Dean Dearnley talked about how Clapton is only using 3 Strats on the road right now, which, I know he's been doing a lot of selling of his guitars over the last couple of years, but I still found it pretty interesting that he's kind of like paring down his selections of what he's using. I think we also talked about, I think it was last week, about how the Genesis guitar player, Mike Rutherford, is using $200 Bullet Strats. And we'll talk about that a little bit in a second too. But, it's just interesting what guys are going out with on the road these days and how far these inexpensive guitars can really take you. Because, for Clapton or for, Mike from Genesis, that's a pretty big deal that they're going out with these, what you would normally think of as inexpensive, cheaper guitars. So super cool. I think that's pretty inspiring for all of us that are looking to get good tone, looking to have nice guitars live, and you don't have to break the bank to get into it. Up next, one of the other cool things was that Rick Beato sat down with Mike Dawes. I hadn't listened to Mike's stuff in a while. I had it in my Apple Music, but I had to go back after watching this interview with him. Wow. I mean, the thing is, the title is a little clickbaity, but world's greatest acoustic guitarist. I mean, he's definitely up there. After listening to him, he has everything down. You know, he has the amazing bass motion, amazing melody motion, all the percussive elements that a lot of guitar players do right now. He does a lot of different covers that are really, really, really fun. So yeah, this was a really, really cool interview from Rick Beato. Beato kind of just let him do his thing and kind of sit back, only asked a couple questions here and there. I don't know if you can see my mouse, but in this section right here, where the guitar looks kind of like it's a little beat up, it's actually something that's kind of unique to that guitar called a scratch pad, where he can use his hand to like do a little bit more percussive elements as well. But yeah, go check out Mike Dawes. His albums are a lot of fun, and if you're looking for some real cool if you're looking for some real cool acoustic music to listen to, if you just want to kind of like chill out and listen to some good stuff, go check that out. Really, really good interview. You know, of course, Beato always does good stuff. And speaking of good stuff, the last thing from last week that I was into was Paul Gilbert coming out with a Christmas album a little early here. It's going to be called "Twas," and he came out with this album called "Hark." He came out with the first song called "Hark the Herald Angels Sing," very classic Christmas song. That you might have heard. You could see he's doing the Eddie Van Halen thing here with the drill. Really, really cool. Not only is he using a drill, but he's also using a lot of slide, like he has been doing all over his last album. If you checked out Werewolves of Portland, he was doing a lot of slide playing on that, and he's doing it a lot here. So he uses the drill, he uses the slide. He has an epic solo towards the end. I already pre-added this. I think it's coming out pretty soon, in time for Christmas. But yeah, Paul Gilbert always doing some fun stuff. I want to know what you've been listening to for Christmas stuff over the years. I will never forget, Merry Xmas, where guys like I think it was Steve Vai and maybe Joe Satriani that got it together. That did all these different rock covers of guitar stuff. There's been so many over the years. I got to go dip into my Apple Music library, but yeah, what cool stuff. I know we're not even in Halloween yet, but we still got another holiday in between to go. But I always like the cool rock guitar stuff. Of course, stuff like Trans-Siberian Orchestra is also really, really big. Really, really cool stuff to listen to around the holidays. So but yeah, that was last week. So there's a lot going on in the guitar world. I remember I was in somebody else's live chat a couple years back. This podcaster I really like, Dan Benjamin, and I was like, "Hey man, you got to check out my newsletter about guitar. I send it out every week." And he was like, "How's that possible that you send out a guitar newsletter every week? Is there enough going on in the guitar world?" The answer to that, I've been doing this newsletter, for a very, very long time, a couple of years. The answer is a resounding yes. There's always something going on in the guitar world, whether it be a new concept, new gear stuff, somebody trying to rethink an old concept, how to break out of the blues box, how to get more out of your picking economy, how to use chromatic notes. There's always something going on, right? So always very happy to be in the community of guitar. There's a lot of cool stuff going on. And then I wanted to share with you before we get out of here a couple of links that I have tomorrow going out in tomorrow's issue of Six String Sunday. After this live stream, I'm going to try to wrap it up. But one of the cool ones was this from Vertex Effects Rig Doctor. And it's all about never buying a patch cable again. Now, I have a lot of cables already. I haven't been making cables in a little while, but it's really cool if you're able to do this because number one, let's talk about the first thing. You're saving money when you're making your own patch cables. That's the coolest part. You're going to probably save a significant amount of money if you build your own cables, and you don't even need a lot of tools for it. Something like a good soldering iron, some solder, maybe some wire strippers, and so on. But the cool thing about that is if you get these tools, like a soldering iron and so on, if your guitar goes out of whack with the electronics and you need to solder something, you already have the tools from when you're making cables. So you're building on your hobby of playing guitar and making your own stuff. It also feels awesome to make things. I was making pedals. I was making this pedal about a month or so ago from Build Your Own Clone, and it was a lot of fun. I still have to paint it, but it's a really really cool sounding fuzz pedal. I got it as a gift, but when you're done with this stuff, and that took about maybe 2 days total of build time, just because I was being really careful with it. You can see all the tools that he has here. It's a lot of fun. The other cool thing is that you can customize the stuff to your own needs. So maybe you don't need a 3-foot cable for a pedal go through. Maybe you just need a shorter one. Like you need something like 6-inch, 7-inch cable. You can customize that to your own needs, and when you do it yourself, the costs go way, way, way down. So go check this video out. It's from Vertex Effects. It's called Never Buy a Patch Cable Again. Speaking of accessories, I have used a Snark tuner for a very, very long time. I'm very happy that this is coming out. There is a new Snark tuner coming out. It might already be out, but there's a new Snark tuner. It's just so many ads everywhere, guys. There's a new Snark tuner coming out that looks very similar to the ones that are already out there, except it has a big upgrade. It is a rechargeable version of the tuner. So the cool thing about this is that it's USB chargeable, and it's the same tuner that we all know and love and clip onto our guitar, but it's only $20 still too. So I will definitely be picking one of these up because I like having it on the headstock, and it will help me not have to buy all these friggin' watch batteries ever again. So that makes me very, very happy. Do you use any clip-on tuner? And if you do, what do you use? And what do you use for your regular tuner as well? Up next, another cool video, a little teaser that combines a lot of my favorite things: guitar and Back to the Future. So Matt Bellamy is the frontman from Muse, the band Muse, and he is also as far as I know, he's the owner of Manson Guitar Works. So I think he's coming out with a signature model that is inspired by Back to the Future. So this is very, very cool. Here is the video. Oh, let's see if we can find it here. Here's the video on Instagram. You can see he's sitting in a DeLorean, and he has this very, very cool looking Manson with P90s, it looks like. Awesome. I mean, let's see. Here we go. I guess, wow. So it is going to be a little bit pricey. The DLOR standard, so like a DeLorean standard, almost $10,000. And then the Relic version will be $12,999. So definitely a guitar that I will not be purchasing, but it's very cool to check this type of stuff out. And I think it's cool that he kind of got Back to the Future style stuff involved there with the DeLorean and everything. So let's go to the opposite end of the spectrum there. Let's talk about this cool post from Guitar World that I'm going to be putting in the newsletter tomorrow. And it's about 18 pro guitarists who play cheap guitars. Now, again, this is a little bit of a maybe kind of a misleading article because, you got guys like Prince here. You have people like Brian May, Eddie Van Halen, Billy Joe Armstrong, Derek Trucks. Of course, these guys are not playing cheap guitars traditionally. But also, I remember we have Kirk Hammett in here, St. Vincent, Joe Troman. The cool thing about this article is that, it shows you where these guitar players started. So, they're talking about here Kirk Hammett and how he owns Greenie, which is, been news over the last couple of years, how he has the 59 Les Paul that was once owned by Peter Green and Gary Moore. But when he was first starting out, during the Kill 'Em All days and Ride the Lightning, he says he only had 3 guitars: a Red Flying V, a Red Fernandez, and Edna, which is his Fernandez S style, his Fernandez Strat style guitar. And then you got guys like Derek Truck says he got his Silvertone Tuxedo for $500. Of course, I don't think he's playing that anymore. He's playing a lot of great guitars, but You know, guys like Brian May, who built his own guitar. Probably, it's not cheap, but it is legendary at this point. So kind of cool, article here. And it shows you some guitar players who started out on, even guys like Beck here, Jack White, on guitars that are not $1 million. They're not $10,000. One guitar I wanted to touch on, I have not played this yet, but I have played the Gibson version of the Lucille, the BB King guitar. I have to give it to Gibson. They have wild guitars like the Jerry Cantrell, which is like something like $8,000 or something wild, and then they have guitars like this from the Epiphone line, which are $949 for the BB King Lucille. I have been hearing nothing but good things about the ES335 series from tons of people in our Discord chat, people on podcasts, and so on. So I can only imagine that this Lucille sounds pretty great. I remember sitting in a Victor's House of Music in New Jersey, which is gone now, but and playing the real Gibson version of this guitar, and it was incredible. I instantly wanted to play in the BB box. I instantly wanted to try all the different tones. But yeah, it's a lot of fun. The Epiphone BB King Lucille, under $1,000. I'm going to assume here that this is going to be a fantastic guitar if you're a blues fan. And like I said, they're doing a lot of other great guitars as well. And then the last thing, been talking a lot here, but the last thing is this video from Justin Derico, who is sitting down here with PRS Guitars. Cool thing about this is that they ask him a bunch of funny questions. Some of them are hilarious. Like if there was a gig in space, eating contest food of choice, toughest fill-in guitar gig, if you were a kitchen, some weird ones, right? Like pineapple on pizza, which of course the answer is no. I don't know if he said no, but one of the things that I went to right away was they're talking about how many songs on The Voice. So he was playing guitar for TV for The Voice, and he said the tryouts alone, I think he had to learn 120 songs, but he mentioned that he's recorded 4,000 songs for The Voice over his tenure for playing guitar for them. So I just thought that was wild. It's just crazy. It's crazy to me how many songs that he's played. Really, really cool. Go check it out. PRS Guitars has been doing some really, really fun videos with all different guitar players. Actually, one I wasn't going to even include in this live stream here, but I'm noticing in my sidebar is that, Mick Rocklin, he's been doing these fun videos about all guitars in his collection. This one was about the Passion and Warfare guitar, which he got from Steve Vai. I mean, it's just such a cool, iconic guitar. Not only, the swirl, but the pyramids on the fretboard. It's really, really cool. Really, really cool. Go check out Mick Rocklin's channel and take a look at all the guitars that he's received from Steve Vai over the last couple of years. He was in a kids rock band back then, and in the last couple of years he's come back and not only released his own solo material, but he's released some stuff with Mick Rocklin and Hutch, which is kind of like a shred wave. It's like more like guitars and 80s music kind of combined. So yeah, Mick Rocklin's really, really cool. One of the most fun guitar players out there. Go check that out if you're you want to see some cool shredded guitar, or if you're into that 80s aesthetic. I think you might dig what Mick Rocklin is doing. So it has been a long day here. I think we're almost at the hour mark. But yeah, I'm going to go finish up tomorrow's issue of Six String Sunday. I hope you enjoyed the guitar lesson from before and learned a lot from it. If you did, give this video a thumbs up. Make sure to subscribe for future live streams if you want to check it out. And if you have anything else that you would like to learn, just comment in the video and I'll try to look on it for, I'll try to get into it for other live streams. So that is it for me for this week. Hope you guys have a great weekend, and I will see you soon. Take care.